After the very disappointing season the New York Rangers just had, they were heading into this offseason, I'm sure, with the intention on trying to make a big upgrade in one of the kind of biggest areas of need to make an upgrade in, of course, and that was the defense core. This team was not good enough defensively this past season there, and it wasn't just on the D core as a whole, it was on the entire team, the forwards as well, of course, and even the coaching staff. You can definitely throw into the mix of kind of blame there as well, but I think a big part of it was the defense core of this Rangers team just straight up not being good enough. And I think they went into this offseason with a real kind of keen idea on trying to make that upgrade, and they ended up doing so. They went out there and got a very good top pairing caliber defenseman in Vladislav Gavrikov. I would say, of course, pretty much that became available, the by far kind of best defenseman in free agency. I mean, especially after seeing a guy like also Ivan Provorov sign a contract with an $8.5 million cap hit. To me, I think Gavrikov signing a 7-year deal worth $7 million per season is not a bad contract at all for this Rangers team. And going forward, I think this player can definitely have a massive impact on this Rangers team and also possibly Adam Fox as well. And of course, Fox, he has played alongside some, not necessarily kind of elite defensemen, not necessarily some great defensemen or phenomenal guys. I mean, someone like Ryan Lindgren, for example, and in previous seasons there especially, he has been a pretty good, top 4 caliber defenseman for sure at moments. But he's also been a player who's dealt with some injuries, has had to miss a lot of time here and there, has, left, mid-game so many times. I mean, more than I can count or remember. So I think, obviously that is a solid player, and he is a bit undersized there and isn't the best kind of overall player, right? I mean, defensively, he can hold his own a bit, sure. He's got some feistiness, some grit to him, absolutely some toughness for sure. But the overall game, the puck-moving ability there, the kind of offensive game is really kind of non-existent, and he's not an absolute kind of shutdown defenseman like someone like Vladislav Gavrikov truly is. This is a true shutdown elite defenseman. I mean, I'm not saying he's like a top 5 or even necessarily a top 10 kind of guy in the league, but he's not too far off that mark there, and he is definitely one of the top defensive defensemen in the entire NHL. He is one of the kind of upper echelon ones in the league. He is a really good defenseman, and I think when you also take a look at this kind of market as well and kind of see the prices and the contracts that were handed out there to, certain players, and also, the value of some guys, what they got, via trades. I mean, you take a look at what we got back for Keandre Miller, and, it being a first, second, and a pretty good, young NHL player / kind of prospect there in Scott Morrow, who can definitely, make an impact possibly at the NHL level right away to begin this upcoming season for the Rangers as well. And a right-handed defenseman, which is a pretty valuable position, 6'2", definitely a pretty promising young NHL player / prospect. So I think getting all that for Keandre Miller, and you see the contracts handed out to a guy like Provorov there as well, I think it definitely tells you that the market is extremely high. I mean, you take a look at what a guy like Cody Ceci got, who I would say is a bottom pairing defenseman. He ends up getting, I think it was something like 4 years at like 4.5 with the LA Kings. So to me, with what this contract ended up being, I think it's honestly a steal. I don't think it's like, the best deal in the league. I'm not going to say that, but it is absolutely a good plus value contract to have on your team, especially with the cap skyrocketing up. And, some fans may get a little worried, near the back half of this deal, possibly, last kind of 2-3 years, maybe as he gets into his kind of mid to later 30s there. And I understand that maybe he does take a step back, and, that's very possible, but even if he does, first off, he's a player who doesn't have, I would say, a crazy amount of kind of wear and tear on his body so far, which is kind of a plus, of course, there. And the other thing with Gavrikov is the fact that, his $7 million cap hit right now, I already think is a pretty big plus for the Rangers. I think it's a pretty big kind of plus, and definitely on the more kind of team-friendly side than the kind of, player-friendly side, I guess you could say. Like, the Rangers, I think, made out pretty well with this deal. And then you take a look in, let's say, 3, 4, 5 years, when the cap has absolutely skyrocketed up an insane amount, even in a year or two, this contract will look even better. And that's why I really do think this contract is like an AA plus there, because in 3, 4, 5 years, we may have a still top pairing caliber shutdown defenseman, or at least a top 4, second pairing caliber guy, I'm sure, on a cap hit that, it might be $7 million right now, but in 3, 4, 5 years, that $7 million might actually look a little more like kind of, $5 million on that cap there, 4.5, 4.75, because of how much the cap has kind of gone up. So I really don't see this deal being bad at all, even in the future. And if he does, eventually, again, in a couple of years, take that step back to being just more of a kind of, decent second pairing defenseman, I don't think this contract is going to be like something that's going to completely obliterate this team and be the factor in why this team maybe doesn't make playoffs that year, doesn't, go on to win the cup, whatever it is. So, personally, I think this deal was an absolute home run there for Chris Drury. I've criticized him a lot in the past there. I think well deserving of it. I mean, he has made some questionable moves there. But I think as of late, since the start of this past season there, for the most part, I've kind of agreed with a lot of his moves he's made there. I think he's made a lot of good moves, chipping off Trouba there. The Kakko deal was a little questionable at the time there, but it's looking better and better as the days go along. That contract extension that Will Borgen got, being like, 4 years at 4.1 starting this upcoming season there, I think that was quite incredible, right? That was a pretty great cap. And now when you take a look at guys like Cody Ceci and Lindgren getting like 400 or 500K more each, then a guy per season, then a guy like Will Borgen there. So I think personally that was a great deal at this point now with those draft picks as well. The Rangers got back in return. So Drury's starting to make a lot better moves there. I'm liking the moves he's making, and I am really and truly just absolutely thrilled we were able to add in a, really great top pairing caliber guy in Gavrikov, and, him alone isn't going to completely fix this entire Rangers team defensively, but if we can see this forward core do a bit better of a job defensively, also the rest of the defensemen there, guy like Carson Soucy, he's not going to be as bad as he was from this past season there. I just can't see it happening under a new coaching staff, new system, with some new players on the team as well, and also him having a full offseason with the Rangers should be a pretty kind of big help as well. So I think overall, I'm excited to see what this team will look like heading into this upcoming season there. There are still some question marks, on the back end there. Does a guy like maybe Scott Morrow, the prospect we picked up in that Keandre Miller trade, does he end up making this team right at a training camp there to begin next season there? He could possibly get a spot, on that third D pair on the right side there if we do switch a guy like Braden Schneider over to the left. So there are definitely a lot of options there. Still for that left side there, is it going to be a guy like, Soucy and Urho? Is it going to be a guy like Schneider going over to the left side there? Who's going to be on that third pair? Who's going to be on that second pair? There are still some question marks on this defense core, and I do think switching over a guy like Schneider to the left side is personally what I want to see. As of this moment right now, with the players we have on this team, this is kind of what I want to see for the defense pair. So first off, for the top pair on the left side, Gavrikov. On the right side, Foxy. Second pair, left side, I want to see Schneider. On the right side, Will Borgen. Then for the third pair on the left side, I would like to see, ideally, Carson Soucy alongside Scott Morrow. And you could have Urho Vaakanainen in there for Soucy. Him and, Urho, they can kind of fight for that spot there if they want. But that's kind of basically what I want to see for the kind of top 7 spots right now. That's kind of my ideal lineup. Now, things can definitely change. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm right. We'll have to wait and see. We're still ways away from training camp, and maybe some more defensemen get added in there, and I would not be terribly shocked if we did see another kind of addition there or possible trade happen with the Rangers adding in a different defenseman, or possibly, shipping out Carson Soucy to make an upgrade somewhere else, possibly, and get a different defenseman in. Right, there are some options out there, and this team obviously doesn't have a lot of cap space available right now, and they still have another maybe move or two left in them possibly, but I think at the end of the day, Chris Drury has done a pretty good job so far of upgrading this team, and I would say definitely has made a pretty massive upgrade on the defense core, but we still have to see how this entire kind of system gels together there. The new system, the new coaches, assistant coaches, some new players, there's a lot to kind of go into mix here, but if they can all mix well together, we could definitely see this Rangers team get right back on track to being a true, cup contender possibly even, right? You have a goalie like Igor Sturkin in net. You've got a coach like Mike Sullivan. You've got a number 1 defenseman like Foxy with now a great number 2 in Gavrikov, and you've also got guys like Schneider maybe can take a step up, maybe Will Borgen, maybe Scott Morrow can have a massive jump this season there possibly. You got some young forwards there who maybe can take a step up as well. Can Will Cooley take another step up in his game? Can we see Zibanejad kind of find his game again, and some other kind of guys like Trocheck and Panarin, can they get back to their elite levels? There are a lot of kind of question marks and kind of good and positives, and there's some bad on this team as well, obviously, but there is a pathway to seeing this team, I would say, get right back on track to being in cup contender for this upcoming season. I'm not saying it's extremely likely, but I definitely think it is possible that we could see this Rangers team be one of the better teams in the entire NHL once again, just like we saw them kind of be last season there and in the past couple seasons as well. They've, of course, had some good playoff runs in recent memory, but I think with this new coaching staff and new kind of core that, Chris Drury's starting to try and build here, I think this is definitely going in a good direction, and I've had my question marks about Chris Drury being the general manager of this kind of Rangers team, but I think so far what we've seen as of late, he's definitely done a pretty good job, and I'm excited to see what he does throughout the rest of this offseason heading into this upcoming 2025-26 season. Anyways, thank you all so much for watching today's video. If you have enjoyed, definitely don't forget to click that like and subscribe button for daily New York Rangers content, as I do post every single day. And also, definitely don't forget to comment down below your thoughts on the New York Rangers D-core as a whole. Who are your kind of favorite defensemen on this team? What kind of lineup do you want to see for the defense core there? Do you want to see it be like Gavrikov alongside Foxy? Do you want to see Schneider alongside Borgen? Let me know your kind of defense pairs you want to see, and also which defenseman do you want to see in the lineup there? Would you rather see a guy like Susi in there over Urho, or would you rather see it be the other way around there? Do you want to see Morrow in the lineup day one? Let me know your thoughts. I'll catch you in the comment section down below, and let's go Rangers.